VCY America presents Crosstalk, a nationwide call-in program discussing issues that have an effect on our families, our communities, our churches, our nation, and our world. Crosstalk, an opportunity for you to voice your concerns for biblical principles. And now live by satellite and around the world on the internet at vcyamerica.org. Here is today's Crosstalk.
We do thank you for joining us on Crosstalk here on VCY America. Just before we introduce our guest and topic today, we want to remind you that the trial Shera versus Ascension Health et al. Is winding down with closing arguments today. It's anticipated as decisions going to be rendered by tomorrow. Lord willing, Scott Shera will be joining us Monday on Crosstalk, and many of you have been following this case, and we would encourage you to continue to keep them in your prayers. Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's become a common thing for Israelis to be woken up by sirens. This morning, with no exception, but this time there is shock as they learned that one of the country's major hospitals was hit by a missile from Iran. Additional sites were hit in Tel Aviv. We understand it was the hospital's old surgical building that suffered damage. CBN reported that one of the doctors indicated that just yesterday they had evacuated the old surgical building that took a direct hit. He said, "It's a great miracle." Israel's prime minister is vowing that the dictators in Tehran will pay the full price. Tehran is calling for an Islamic army to wage war on Israel. The Council on American Islamic Relations is demanding that President Trump halt U.S. weapons transfers to Israel. Matter of fact, CAIR New Jersey is condemning Israel for what they call an unprovoked attack on Iran. The al-Qaeda leader is calling upon Muslims to assassinate President Trump and other high-ranking officials. And earlier this month, a Muslim in Boulder, Colorado, is suspected of firebombing a group of pro-Israel protesters, leaving 15 injured. He is an Egyptian national. And as reported recently on jihadwatch.org, the Council on American Islamic Relations Director Nihad Awad is reportedly hosting a training session to help citizens spot ICE agents and alert mobs to target them. One anti-ICE protester is calling out Allahu Akbar. To help us understand what's happening, we must also understand that Pew Research reported earlier this month that on a global basis, Islam is growing faster than all other religions. So what's going on? Haven't we been forewarned that this would happen? One such person giving forewarning is Usama Dakdok, the founder of the Straight Way of Grace Ministry. He's a speaker on the daily radio broadcast Revealing the Truth About Islam. Usama was born and raised in Egypt and learned about Islam just as every other student does in a Muslim country. He studied for a university degree in Egypt that included the study of Sharia, that is, Islamic law. He first came to America in 1992 and with his knowledge of Islam founded the Straight Way of Grace Ministry. He does speak fluent Arabic. He's translated the Quran into English. He's the author of Exposing the Truth About the Quran, Exposing the Truth About Jihad, and the booklets The Violent Truth About Islam and The Straight Way to Eternal Life. For many years, Usama has been traveling the country to equip the church to minister to Muslims and to warn Americans about the deceptive methods being used that lead many into the cult of Islam. Usama, so good to have you in our studios today.
Thank you, Brother Jim. It's always my joy and my honor to be with you and all our wonderful audience.
So before we have a myriad of topics we're going to look at today, the global rise of Islam. It's happening on many, many fronts around the globe, but also we'll focus in on some key issues here in the United States of America as well. But first of all, give us your take on what's going on in the Middle East.
I believe we're getting close to the end. If this is the final war the Bible talking about against Israel, if not, they'll maybe have some years of peace, and then it will be the same way as we know. There will be wars and rumors of wars forms all over the world until Christ come back. And we only have to wait to see what tomorrow will bring to us.
Mm-hmm. And indeed, right now, as we take a look at Israel and Iran, there are those who are saying Israel, CAIR is pointing their fingers at Israel right now, pointing at them. You're at fault for this. We are seeing the call for Muslim nations to unite behind Iran and to stand up against Israel. So as it pertains to this war itself and the influence of Islam, help us understand what's taking place.
Welcome to the true nature of Islam. The true color of Islam is shown up. If you have talked to Nahid Awad or CARE or ISNA or MSA or any of these jihadi Muslim Brotherhood organization in America a few years ago, they will tell you Islam is love, Islam is peace. But I'm sorry, that lie did not last long time, because here we are in America. Here's the truth, not only from the leaders of such organization, but from every Muslim imam and the Muslim world, those who truly practice Islam. I'm not talking about the hypocrite Muslims, but the true Muslim believers from day one, that is a good 1450 years ago until today. They hated the Jews, they hated the Christians, they hated any and everybody who does not submit to Islam.
So we have a top Iranian official calling for an Islamic army to wage war on Israel. This is Mohsen Razi, urging Turkey, Saudi Arabia, Pakistan, several other countries to unite to form an anti-Israeli alliance in the Middle East.
And I believe that will depend on how America will take a stand in this war. If we stay idle on the side of the war, there will be other countries involved with Iran against America. But if America took a stand with Israel, none of these countries are going to join Iran. But you see, of course, few pockets here and there of Muslims from every country, even the Muslims who live in America, who will do some harm to the people of the West. And it's not about Israel. It's not about the Jew. It's about infidels versus Muslim believers.
You know, I find it very interesting, too, because at the same time, we have a new leader in al-Qaeda that is calling upon the assassination of President Trump. This is from truthpress.com, the leader of a terrorist group calling for the assassination of President Donald Trump and multiple top American leaders. We're talking about Secretary of State Marco Rubio, Vice President J.D. Vance, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth, even Elon Musk. It's a new video that the leader of the group of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula issued, this 34-minute incitement to terrorism. That's according to the New York Post, quoting him as telling his followers to take revenge.
And all these people who are naming to be put to death in America, none of them is a Jew. They're all Christians, Catholic, or whatever other belief. And once again, that's the reality. The command of Allah given to Muhammad is believed by the Muslims, and they will practice it. That is, Allah ordered Muhammad and his followers to engage in war with the people of the world, with the people of the earth, American or not, those who would not submit to Islam. Because Muhammad said, I have been commanded to engage in war with people until they testify to the fact that there is no God except Allah, and I am his messenger.
We're told Islam is a religion of peace. How does Islam view Christianity?
Well, the Jews and the Christians are infidels. Muhammad actually lied in Quran chapter 9, verse 31, claiming that the Jews people worship Azir or Azra as the son of Allah, and the Christian worship Isa, son of Mary, the son of Allah. They are infidels. And the command of Allah is very clear, to engage in war with the infidels, to perform jihad against the infidels, to kill the infidels. You will never find in the Quran or in the teaching of Muhammad in the Hadith or in the Seerah, the life of Muhammad, any teaching of love or for Muslims to live in peace, except when they do not have the upper hand, as Allah stated in Quran chapter 47 and verse 35, when Allah said, do not be weak, calling for peace when you have the upper hand. Muslims look at peace as weakness, which is the opposite of the reality. You can be strong and peaceful, and that's what I like about Trump. He has shown his strength, and he still not, until now, have not got involved in that war.
Yeah, matter of fact, I mean, what we have happening is they're calling for blood on our streets here across the United States of America. And we also have May 23rd, 2025, a Friday sermon at the Islamic Organization of North America. That's in Michigan. Dr. Sharif Gindi discussed the importance of jihad, said the reason mosques were destroyed in India, closed in the European Union, and Muslim girls were asked to remove their hijabs worldwide is because jihad was ceased. He explained that jihad means defending Islam with force, power, and strength, as well as through non-violent means.
And look at the contradiction in his statement. He's an oxymoron. How can you say you're going to practice jihad as defense and at the same time you're not going to do it in violence? Since when Muhammad practiced any of the 26 verses which he mentions the Quran of jihad in a peaceful way? Jihad was never a defensive war. It was offensive war, and that's what Muhammad did. We have our books exposing the truth about jihad, volume 2, which is the unholy war in the Quran. And we put in it 79 verses of war, 26 verses of jihad, and the rest of the verses which is barbaric, savage, all over the Quran. And we challenge Muslim, show me one verse in the Quran where Muhammad engaged in war in defensive way. It was always offensive, not only because I said so, because Allah said so, and all great Muslim scholars assured us so.
CARE is calling upon President Trump to stop sending arms shipments to Israel.
Yeah, if they will have the guts, if we have Biden or somebody else in the White House, then we will ask him, send a weapon to the Palestinians, send weapon to Iran, help us to wipe out the Jews. And I believe that they will come. And this could be the result of what's going to happen in America if we don't have the right people in the White House.
Did not President Biden, in essence, send weapons to Iran by lifting the embargo against Iran and therefore providing lots of funds for Iran to go out and
it
get money?
started actually before that. In his 8 years, Mr. Barack Hussein Obama, when he sent them $151 billion, and now they got all the money they need to continue to make their bomb. If it was not for the financial blessing they have received from Obama and Biden, they would not have any advantage to move on with their program to make the nuclear bomb. And by the way, not once I heard the Iranians shout death to Israel, and they said before, al-maut to America, death to America. So America comes before Israel when you consider the plan of Iran for the future of the West.
Okay, so we're taking a look at the global rise of Islam. Let's head over to Russia. Here's a headline from Jihad Watch. 400,000 Muslims marched through Moscow screaming Allahu Akbar.
Well, there are Muslims in Russia. As a matter of fact, there are 20% of the people of Russia are Muslims. I believe 40% of the Russian armies are Muslims. That's twice as much as people who live in their land. So obviously you're here Allahu Akbar everywhere where is a Muslim. That's exactly what they believe, and that's what they're hoping to accomplish. The death to the infidels by the hand of the defender of Allah, the Muslim believers.
We also, let's look at Nigeria. Horrible story just coming out here. The bloodiest massacre on record has taken place. Islamic Fulonis massacred over 200.
Brother Jim, killing Christians all over the Muslim world is a reality, is a routine of every day. The sad thing is we don't hear about it here in America. But there is not one Muslim country which are controlled by the Muslim where there are not Christian or slaughters every week, every month. Sometimes some of them are on a daily broadcast. I mean, literally, when I was in Egypt, last time I was in Europe and went back to Egypt and I saw it, man, everything is peaceful. It was so bad in Egypt that they actually burned churches, including my home church. 82 churches were burned one day. Lots of business was destroyed. And I said, wait a minute, I was in Germany. I never heard of it. And that is the reality. We don't know what happened in the Muslim world, especially when it comes to persecution of Christians.
Okay, let's go to the Western world now. London. I mean, we have a Muslim mayor, the Sadiq Khan, and he was just knighted at Buckingham Palace by King Charles III for his supposed contributions to politics and public service. Mayor Khan has been at the forefront of Britain's speech policing, and we know he's been an advocate for Islam, and here he is being knighted by King Charles.
Brother Jim, I believe the day is coming when all European countries, even America, will leave Israel alone because the prophecy must be fulfilled. Israel is going to be alone in the end. And the reason of that, because Muslims are taking over the West, one country at a time. And if you have Muslims in high position in a country, for sure, that country will turn its back against Israel, and Israel will stand alone.
The global rise of Islam, our topic here today on Crosstalk. Usama Dakdok is with us from the Straight Way of Grace Ministry. We're going to take a quick break, friends, and come back to speak about what's happening also within the United States of America. What's going on in the state of Colorado. Also, an Oklahoma man pledged his loyalty to the Islamic State, was going to be carrying out his terrorist attack on the Oklahoma Sooners football stadium. We have that and much more to cover. You're listening to Crosstalk on the VCY America Network. Stay with us.
Back to Genesis with Dr. John Morris, geologist and president of the Institute for Creation Research. Dr. Morris, has life been found on meteorites?
No, it hasn't, Chris, even though this fairy tale is continually repeated by my evolutionary colleagues. Microscopic studies of certain meteorites has led them to claim that they have seen hints of past microbial life. but other scientists have studied the same samples and are absolutely convinced that these are really just inorganic crystals or compounds. It's hard to overcome some of these stories once they hit the mainstream press and are repeated over and over again. But the fact is, life has not been found anywhere but on planet Earth, and it's here in abundance, just like we would expect from the back to Genesis truth of creation.
If you want to know more about the creation evolution issue, visit us on the web at www.icr.org. Back to Genesis is a production of the Institute for Creation Research. I'm Chris O'Brien. Thanks for tuning in.
You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America. Usama Dakdok is in studio with us today. Good to have him here. He's in the state of Wisconsin speaking in various churches. Matter of fact, tonight he is going to be speaking, this being Thursday, June 19th, 6:30 p.m. at Calvary Sunrise in Oshkosh, 222 Church Avenue. They've invited him to come and speak this evening, those of you in the Oshkosh area or within driving distance. And then Saturday of this week in Tomah, Wisconsin, he's going to be speaking at Open Door Baptist Church on County Highway O in Tomah, Wisconsin at 6 p.m. They've invited him there to speak. And Usama, I understand that you are available even Sunday.
Sunday morning, Sunday at night. It's still open for anybody who would love to have me in this area.
Okay, and how can they reach out to you?
Just call me directly, 941-223-3698. That is 941-223-3698.
And friends, you can just touch base with Usama on that, and 941-223-3698.
That's exactly right.
Okay, Usama Dakdok with us here today, talking about this global rise of Islam. And sometimes we think that Islam is just outside there, outside the walls and the borders of the United States, but that's not the case. You've been on with us before, talking about Epic City, the Islamic center that's being planned for just outside of Plano, Texas, and other communities have considered, such community as well.
Muslims are growing anywhere, everywhere you go, not just in America, but in planet Earth. And sometimes we think it just happened by accident. No, they plan it that way. They actually move people from one state to another state to get the right number to accomplish their goals. And that is exactly why they're here.
Well, friends, we're going to give you some examples of what's taking place here in the United States. And I'm going to begin with a audio clip here of a Florida imam, Islamic scholar Abu Usama at Thahabi, and saying that Muslims should not apologize for jihad. Here's the clip here coming to us from Florida. I tell you what, that's a different clip. We're going to get to that in just a moment. Let's go to this one.
Muslims are men who defend themselves, they defend their religion, they defend their principles, what they believe in. They don't apologize about jihad. They're not afraid of jihad. It's a part of who we are. The Muslim is an individual who, part of his rojula, being a man, is not our wives do jihad. We do jihad. Those Christians, they are not practicing anything of what the Isa ibn Maryam brought. Not only are they not practicing it, he didn't come for them. If now Muslims are walking down the street and you're on the same side as them, then make them go to the part of the street that's difficult. Showing the izzah of Islam. The hadith says, showing the izzah of the Muslim, when you have power, you do that.
Usama, your response.
Well, he's talking about the truth of Islam. I wish I have heard him saying that a good 20 years ago, or maybe from the days of September 11, because for a long time, we heard Muslims talk about jihad is a struggle within. Jihad is to stop doing evil. Jihad is to do good. And this, what I call hogwash jihad, he's talking about the true jihad. And by the way, that hadith he's twisting, it's actually the saying of Muhammad when he said, do not initiate the peace to the Jews and the Christian. And if you meet them in a road, force them to its narrowest alley. He actually taken that hadith and twisted over that we Christians are doing that. No, Christian, Mr. Imam, loves their enemies. You hate the Jews and hate the Christians. You hate everybody who will not submit Islam. That's why you have been existing in this world. If it was not for jihad as many of the top Muslim scholars said, if it was not for jihad, if it was not for the war of apostasy, Islam would have died on the day Muhammad died. So here is the reality. They're here, they have a louder voice, they no longer speak in Arabic like we used to translate their words in English so the American people can understand what they're saying. Now they're speaking in your face, in the English language. It is jihad. You are a man when you defend Islam. But I'm sorry. Defend Islam meaning somebody is attacking you. Who is attacking the Muslims in America? Who is attacking the Muslims in Europe? They are the savage. They are the barbaric. They are the one who practices Islam, not because of defense. He adds the word defense to give them the legal right to say it, because in America we have freedom of speech, but you cannot tell people, go kill the Christian, but you can say, defend yourself. Even though Christians and the Jews never harmed any Muslims throughout the borders of the United States of America.
Usama, we also have this whole matter of the immigration taking place and the uprisings taking place. We'll hit many of these issues here, but do we have any idea how many Muslims are in our country illegally right now?
Brother Jim, years ago, you and I talked about, even with Brother Vic, and I said, when Muslims take an inch in this country, they will never talk back. And if you give them an inch, they go for a mile. We allowed Biden to bring maybe, and that's a guess number, 4 million illegal in the last 4 years before Trump came to the White House. 4 million. You will never undo that. You will never be able to remove these Muslims from America. As a matter of fact, they're hoping that the 4 will bring another 4 for each one. That means we're going to have 16 million in the next 10 years. That is their agenda. Muslims come to America not to leave America with Trump or anybody else. They're here to stay. They're here to take over. They're here to perform jihad for the sake of Allah against anyone who would try to hinder the agenda of Muslims taking over America.
I know you're well familiar with what happened in Boulder, Colorado here recently, and we're talking about Mohammed Sabri Solomon, suspected of firebombing a group of pro-Israel protesters June the 1st. 15 people were injured. He was in the country illegally. His visa expired February 26th of 2023, but he received a work authorization. He's an Egyptian national.
Brother Jim, I said before that visa title or name is a student visa, visit visa, whatever visa name you're going to give, is just a piece of paper for Muslims to invade America. We have thousands of Muslim students come to America every year. And when their degree is over, or if they quit going to school, that does not mean they go back to where they come from. They're here to stay. And the sad thing is, we're not even taking advantage to minister to these people. They're here. Some of them are here as a jihadi. They're here to do their job for Allah. And some of them just come to America. And the church are not reaching out to these people. And they're dying as Muslim. And some of them are going to die performing jihad, killing us. And Muhammad Sabri, this Egyptian man, is, we call him the shirtless. By the way, he was arrested without shirt because the last fire he was thrown on the Jewish people in that meeting actually caught fire on himself. And that's how God intervened to stop, because he have another 16 what do you call this, bottle of gas, Molotov cocktail to throw on the people. And thank God that happened, and that stopped him, slowed him down until he was arrested.
Yeah,
that's the reality of what Muslims do in America.
I'm looking at a story from Jihad Watch as well that said that Egypt had warned the U.S. that this firebomber was a member of the Muslim Brotherhood.
Brother Jim, our president in Egypt, and I say our because I'm Egyptian American, al-Sisi, have told America long time ago that the Muslim Brotherhood is a jihad organization. You cannot practice what CARE and all these different chapters in America in Egypt, which is the home base of the Muslim Brotherhood. The Muslim Brotherhood started with Hassan al-Banna and Sayyid Qutb and all those. If you have a chapter like CARE in Egypt, you'll be arrested. And if you resist arrest, you'll be shot and killed on the spot. But here in America, they have open door to do whatever they wish. I wish Mr. Trump do America a favor, because I said that in the end of his 4 years, the first 4 years, I said, do America a favor, acknowledge the fact that CARE and other jihad organizations like them are Muslim Brotherhood, to stop them from flourishing in that land. But so far, he's not doing that, and I do not know why. Take advice of the Muslim president of Egypt, al-Sisi, and he will tell you, get rid of these chapters all over America. If it's ISNA or MSA or CARE or whatever, otherwise they will continue to grow in this country, and they will hinder the true work of the American people in America and around the world.
Why are we not listening?
Because of political correctness. We don't want to make Trump look like Islamophobe. When in reality, if he stopped that chapter, he can always use Egypt as an example. He say, where is the Muslim Brotherhood started? Is in Egypt. What the Egyptian government did with them, they closed them down. We will do the same in America.
Yeah. And
but here's another fact, Brother Jim. Here in America, they wear suits and ties, so they don't look like the Muslim of Egypt. That is the difference.
what is the connection between the Muslim Brotherhood that we just warned about in Egypt and CARE, the Council on American Islamic Relations?
No such thing. There is literally one of the same. There's the same team. We have cases against them. The Holy Land Foundation trial in Texas years ago. This should end the existence of CARE and other organizations like them. On that memorandum, the Muslim strategic goal for North America, they gave us the name of 30 jihadi organization in America. And we did nothing about stopping them. And we just looked the other side. I do not know why in the world, when God gave us a golden opportunity to free your country, to save your country from the savage Muslims who live among us, why ignore it? Why you look some other where else? Like they're not here. They're here for one purpose. Read the memorandum of the North America blueprint for the Muslim in America here from the Holy Land Foundation trial. It is eliminating America. It is destroying America. It's performing jihad in America. It's making America a Muslim country. What else do you need besides that to cancel the existence of such barbaric, savage Muslims from America?
We saw the atrocities of Hamas against Israel October 7th, 2023. Is there any connection between Hamas and CARE?
Of course, Hamas is. CARE is Hamas. They are chapter 1 to support Hamas. And if you think what happened in Gaza is bad, it's going to be here in America. Just allows a Muslim to have their own community, and they will come out of their community to do exactly what Hamas did in the border of Gaza.
June 10th, 2025, we have an article here from Jihad Watch that indicates that the Hamas-linked CARE is inciting the public against Immigration Customs Enforcement, against ICE.
Sure. And it's amazing that I've been watching what the Muslims are doing in America. They're uniting everybody in America. If you are Intifa, if you are Black Lives Matter, if you are gay, if you are lesbian, if you whatever you are, all of them are united with the Muslim, by the Muslims against America. And that's why I called all these people stupid, useful idiots. They are used as useful idiots for their own destruction because, as my friend Yusuf, who we've been hosting now in our broadcast of every Friday, he said, they will use these people to accomplish their goals in America, and then they turn their back against all these people, and they will be the first to be destroyed in America.
Well, here is a press release that just came out from CARE, and it's CARE California strongly condemning Trump's militarized crackdown on anti-ICE protests, welcome Governor Newsom's opposition to the escalation. CARE has a vested interest for illegal immigration in our country.
Because most of them are Muslims, and they don't want to lose these people who came to America illegally during Biden years. And as a matter of fact, before that, during Obama years, there was plenty of Muslims who came to this country. Literally, in the 8 years of Obama, the number of Muslims quadrupled in America. The number of mosques quadrupled in America in the 8 years of Barack Hussein Obama. And American people do not know that. Actually, Obama used the church to bring these Muslims as refugees from all over the Muslim world. We hardly brought any Christians from Nigeria or Somalia or Iraq or Afghanistan or Egypt, but we brought Muslims. And who's bringing them to America? The Catholic and the Lutheran and the Presbyterian and the Baptist. They were making money to do the dirty work for Barack Hussein Obama by bringing these people to America as refugees. And we love the Muslim people and we want them as refugees. And I asked the question, where are the Christians from Somalia? Where are the Christians from Nigeria? Where are the Christians from any of these Muslim countries? There were none. Literally, from Egypt, they got 1 or 2% Christian and 98% Muslims. Why we bring Muslims from Egypt as refugees? I thought Egypt is a great country. Why can't we bring the Christians from this Muslim world? Obviously, Obama was so smart. He used the useful idiot liberal churches in America to bring such people, and that continued with Biden. But Obama actually, he just opened the border and begs them to come in. Please come in, take over America.
Friends, we'll be back in just 1 minute here on Crosstalk. Usama Dakdok is our guest, speaking about the global rise of Islam. By the way, Usama's website is thestraightway.org, thestraightway.org. We'll be back in 1 minute. You're listening to Crosstalk on the VCY American Network.
Have you ever had someone attempt to talk to you about the Watchtower Society or the Book of Mormon? Or perhaps a friend has told you that they've started yoga and invited you to participate. You know you heard something about these religions and teachings, but never had the material in your hand to give a biblical response to their teachings. Now you can. Two world-renowned researchers, Dr. Ron Carlson and Ed Decker, teamed up to write Fast Facts on False Teachings, an easy-to-use resource guide that gives you quick, clear facts about several cults and false teachings. You'll find chapters on atheism, Freemasonry, Hinduism and yoga, Islam, Jehovah's Witnesses, Mormonism, and much more. Fast Facts on False Teachings is available for a donation of $18 or more when you call VCY America, 1-800-729-9829. That's 1-800-729-9829.
You're listening to Crosstalk on VCY America, and it's our privilege to have in studio with us today Usama Dakdok, who is conducting various meetings in the state of Wisconsin right now. Those of you within driving distance to Oshkosh tonight, Thursday, June 19th, 6:30 p.m., Calvary Sunrise, 222 Church Avenue in Oshkosh. That gets underway at 6:30 p.m. And then coming up on Saturday, June 21st, 6 p.m. in Tomah, Wisconsin at the Open Door Baptist Church on County Highway O. Usama will be speaking there. And as he mentioned, he does have this Sunday yet open. If you're within driving distance there from probably from Tomah, Wisconsin, the phone number 941-223-3698. Usama, we're talking about the global rise of Islam that is taking place, and it's just not happening around the world. It's not just against Israel. We're seeing it happen in numerous nations. I mean, Europe is being decimated right now by this as well. But as we focus on the United States, we see the anti-ICE rallies that are going on in Los Angeles and in other places as well. Why is it that we're seeing so many of them, so many of these protesters wearing the keffiyeh?
Well, obviously, Brother James, they're hiding their identity. If you are a peaceful protest, you have no problem to walk in the street with your name tag to let the world know who you are. We don't see Martin Luther King cover his face when he did his protest. And obviously, he was more effective than all this nonsense. So they are doing something wrong. And as a matter of fact, you can see it. Why a peaceful protest will burn the American flag? Why is a peaceful protest will shout these unaccepted from an American people? I mean, their action is the reason why they hide their identity. They don't want to be arrested. They want to be able to do their dirty work. And in the end of the night, they go home and nobody knows who they were.
Also, we are seeing, I'm going to play the audio clip that I touched just a little bit earlier, the shout of Allahu Akbar happening at this is from Los Angeles. Let's listen in.
Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Takbir! Takbir! Come to Saudi! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Allahu Akbar! Takbir!
Usama, comment on this statement.
When I hear the words Allahu Akbar, I remember seeing all those Christians and our missionaries overseas who were slaughtered. They cut their heads completely off with a knife as you kill a chicken in the Middle East or you kill a cow. That shout Allahu Akbar goes back all the way to 1400 years ago when Muhammad surrounded the city of Bani Qurayza, the Jewish community, and in one afternoon he beheaded between 600 to 800 men, taking the wives and the daughters as concubines and slaves to rape, to raise the next Muslim generation in that community. And that is exactly the shout Allah Akbar. You hear it when an airplane take a building, go inside a building. You hear it when Muslims blow up a bomb. When you hear it when they perform jihad. It is, by the way, a nonsense phrase. It means Allah is bigger. It's not a complete sentence. Allah is bigger than what? Bigger than my foot? Bigger than what? What is Allah Akbar? And they translated wrong. The foolish Americans say it means God is great. I'm sorry. Allah Akbar is not Allah Azim. Allah Azim is God is great. Allah Akbar, God is bigger. Bigger than what? It is a shout of victory Muslims do to literally get themselves over the fear of what they're doing, if they're going to commit suicide or whatever you do. It is a shout to say, we're helping Allah to make him bigger, but Allah himself is not Akbar. And the proof is that it's very simple, Brother Jim. You talk about 8 million Jews live in Israel, surrounded by over 400, 500 Muslim believer. If Allah is Akbar, how in the world 8 million in the last 57 years can stand up alive and they grow in strength and knowledge in helping even the Muslims who live around them? How can be Allah Akbar and the 400, 500 million could not take out 8 million? By the way, half of them are women and children. So here is the reality. Allah is not Akbar. Allah is Asghar, which means Allah is smaller.
Fox News published on June 12th, an Oklahoma man who pledged his loyalty to the Islamic State wanted to carry out a terrorist attack on the Oklahoma Sooners football stadium in 2023. He's just being brought to justice now as far as the trial, but he would have carried out his attack had he been able to afford it. This is a plan for a college football stadium, a follower of ISIS.
And I guarantee you, if I have done, or if he has the opportunity to do his work, he will be shouting Allahu Akbar too. See, the problem is, Americans think Allahu Akbar means God's great. We have no problem because Christian believe God is great. Jewish believe that God's great. No, Allah Akbar is a shout of victory, and they will not see victory except by destroying the West, killing Jews and Christians, killing Americans. Get rid of the infidels so that Allah will be victorious in the end.
And we're paying for it, too.
Absolutely.
And I'm looking, for instance, a story that came out of WordPress about Plano, Texas, and the fact that the headline says Plano, Texas hands $1.2 million to radical terror-aligned charities, including Epic City.
I do not know why the American people are supporting the Muslims to destroy America. Except that I believe God has made those liberal blind that they're digging their own graves by their own hands for the judgment of God to be on them. I always said that, Brother Jim, for years. Muslims are here in America. They're not going anywhere. And one of the two things must happen. We must lead them to Christ, or they will be used by God, not Allah, not Satan, God, to judge the Christians and to judge the Americans who are not truly loving these people. They are victims of Islam, number one, and the rest of America will be victim number two.
Usama, I want to also get to the heart of this story. This is the Pew Research just conducted their survey, their study here, June 10th, 2025, and they found that Muslims grew faster than any other major religious group in the decade leading up to 2020. From 2010 to 2020, Muslims continue to be the second largest religious group in the world after Christians. During this 10-year period, the number of Muslims increased by 347 million people to 2 billion people, they report. And they say Christians grew by 122 million. That's just about a third of the growth as what we saw under Muslims, to 2.3 billion. Usama, Islam is about ready to take over Christianity. And by Christian, that's a very broad term. They're talking people who are not Muslim or Jew.
Yes and no. Yes, in numbers, people write in front of their names the religion is Muslim. No, absolutely not. Yes, because we're assuming that the Christian, number one, because we have large countries like America call themselves Christian, when in reality they're not. Here's the truth, Brother Jim. 87% of the Muslim people in the world are Muslim in name only. They do not know jack about Islam. They never read the Quran. They pray in the Arabic language words they do not even know what it means. But the number of Muslims who is growing in America or around the world is a result of having babies or people being deceived into Islam. I don't call Americans who convert to Islam Muslims. I don't. Unless they're willing to perform jihad for the sake of Allah, unless they believe in the true nature of Islam. Most people in the world who believe in Islam out of conversion, they believe Islam to be a loving and peaceful religion. They believe Islam have respect for women. They believe Islam is holy. They believe Muhammad was a great prophet. But when you examine their belief about Islam, you find that it is the opposite of what Islam is. Muhammad was not a holy man. Muhammad was a pedophile, for heaven's sake. An 51 years old man married to a 6 years old child, Aisha? I know Muslims will say, well, he did not have intercourse with her until she turned 9. Yeah, 54 to 9, that acceptable? That's why, by the way, the law in Iraq now, they changed the age of marriage from 16 to young girls to 9 years old. Welcome to the reality of the immoral Islam. If the people of the West knows the true nature about Islam, they will never accept Islam. And by the way, there are plenty of Muslims are leaving Islam. Sadly, majority of them are becoming atheists. They don't believe in God at all. millions of them. Iran is a good example. But also, we also have lots of Muslims coming to Christ. And that is a great miracle.
You know, I find it very interesting that they said in this Pew Research study, just like you proclaimed here, Muslims have more children and they are younger on average than members of any other major religion.
It's true. And the name Muhammad, for example, is the biggest name grown in England. You see lots of babies born by the name Muhammad. When in reality, most of these Mohammedans in England do not even know anything about the Quran or do not know too much about Islam. So, yeah, numbers shows that Muslims are growing in numbers, but I'm sorry, you're not a Muslim because you said you're a Muslim. Mm-hmm. You're a Muslim if you believe in Islam. Same as Christianity. You cannot tell me I'm a Christian because I was born in a Christian home. You're a Christian because you accepted Christ as Lord and Savior. You made the decision to be a follower of Christ, and that's not what we found in Islam.
How does one become a Muslim?
Well, you just listen to the lies of the Muslims and repeat the words La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, and you didn't even know what you're saying in the Arabic language. We got a video of a man who could not even say it right. He said, there is no God except Allah. That's what he said in the Arabic. He does not know what he's saying. And then he could not pronounce the word Muhammad. He said Mudamdam, Muhadam, Mudahdam. He could not say Muhammad. So here we go. A famous Portugali soccer player converted Islam. He could not say the Shahada right in the Arabic language. And obviously, he did not know what he's saying.
Right.
So, but majority of Muslims we know in the West who become Muslims, they actually become in the propaganda Islam believer, not in the real Islam.
Usama Dakdok is with us today here on Crosstalk. I'm going to open our phone lines. If you have a question you'd like to ask or a brief comment on what has been discussed today on the program as it pertains to Islam, our number is 800-733-9829. That's 1-800-733-9829. 9829. So according to the Pew Research study, the numbers are growing far faster for Islam than any other religion. The number of children that they are giving birth to far outpace any other religious group. And they also say that the age, and because of that birth rate, is becoming younger and younger for Muslims, whereas Christianity is getting older and older.
I think that there is a golden opportunity here, Brother Jim. The Lord brought the Muslims to us in America. They are our neighbors. They're everywhere. And if we do not share the gospel with them, once again, we will be judged by them. Because, face it, if a child is grown as a Muslim and he never give his heart to Jesus, become a Christian, most likely, he will be a jihadi. And he will be doing the work of Allah and the work of the devil, Satan, Allah, or Muhammad in the future in this country, which means we will be suffering from them. And the reality is, examine what's happening in Europe. 5-10 years, it will be in America. And that is a very sad and black days.
What's also interesting, while we have seen what's transpired with Iran constantly warning Israel, we're going to wipe you off the face of the earth. Death to Israel, death to America. We've been hearing that chant over and over. We saw what happened in Colorado here too, from a follower of Islam and the carnage that they perpetrated there. And while all this is going on, you have the top dog of the UN Islamophobia, top dog, says Western countries must adopt laws to fight Islamophobia. And so while Islam is continuing to wreak carnage across this world, they're saying, no, the problem is Islamophobia.
Brother Jim, I face the reality of Islamophobia with those who use these words, and I have not yet met one of those people who use the phrase Islamophobia who have read the Quran. And I have said it so many times, I got sometimes angry, and I said, sir or ma'am, have you ever read the Quran? And they say no. I said, please, before you continue to spread your propaganda about Islam, read the Quran once in your life. Study about Muhammad. You don't want to hear me. Hear those who left Islam, who became a Christian. They will tell you the same thing. Islam is nothing to be feared. You should be tremble of Islam. Think about it. Allah used the word terror all over the Quran. Quran 3:151. We will cast terror into the heart of the Americans. Why? Because they are infidels. That's what Allah said. If you are not a Muslim, you're an infidel. So here's one verse in the Quran. How about Quran 8:12? Allah said, I am with you, speaking to the believers. He said, we will cast terror into the heart of those who became infidels. Strike the necks and strike off every finger from them. That is the teaching of Islam. How can you read that and don't think there's something to fear about Islam?
We'll take your calls right after the break. This is Crosstalk on VCY America. The number 800-733-9829. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
For the Worldview Report, I'm Brandon House. Our website's worldviewtube.com. Our reporter, Annie Cyrus, who was born and raised in Iran, now lives in the U.S., is reporting something she saw as she monitors Iranian television. Shortly after Israel hit one of the state TV studios in Iran, all of a sudden, the phrase Islamic Republic quietly disappeared from the crawler on the bottom of the screen. In its place was Armed Forces Iran and Iran's broadcast. The words Islamic Republic simply vanished, but the double spaces remained. In other words, they're not announcing it, they're not admitting it, but they apparently are erasing it live and in plain sight. Does Israel and the freedom fighters in Iran now have control of that state TV department? We'll keep you posted as the Middle East is shaking up and the stage is set for Bible prophecy. I'm Brandon House.
The program is called Crosstalk, coming your way from the VCY American Network. Usama Dakdok is with us today, the founder of the Straight Way of Grace Ministry. Many, many resources on their site, recordings and books and materials. TheStraightWay.org is the website, TheStraightWay.org. We've got one line that is open yet at 800-733-9829. Glenn is calling from Bethel, Ohio. You're on the air, Glenn.
Thank you very much for taking my call. And I would love for our guest to comment on the biblical precept in the story of Esther, that we have a common day Haman, and it's Ayatollah Khomeini, and he needs to be taken out. I'd like to hear him comment on that.
Okay, thank you very much. He's saying that we kind of have a parallel to the book of Esther and Haman and wanting to eradicate the Jews.
Sure. The devil from day one, he wants to get rid of the Jewish people because he knows what is written about the Jews, especially in the end times. When the Jewish people came to Israel in 1948, he actually, before that, he was working hard to annihilate them by the hand of Hitler, and he could not. And he knows that in the end of time, there will be 144,000 great missionaries come out of Israel to the world, and he does not want that day to come because that will be his end as well. So there is some similarity between what the infidel or what those who do not believe in God want to do to the Jewish people in Esther days and what's happening today.
So we saw it from Haman, we saw it from Herod, saw it from Hitler.
Sure.
And now let's look at the other H's, Hamas, Hezbollah, Houthis.
Lots of H.
Yeah.
Lots of H's are there.
Yeah, indeed. Let's go back to the lines here. We have Ron in New Berlin, Wisconsin. Ron, you're on the air.
I'll be brief. I think when Trump said, I'm going to wait 2 weeks, I think he was looking for the reaction of the Iranian people. I'll hang up and listen.
Okay. So he's saying President Trump's not going to act. He said, well, within 2 weeks he's going to respond. The caller is saying here, Usama, that he was looking for a reaction to that statement.
I believe what Mr. Trump is doing is a wise thing. He does not have to rush to drop this big bomb on Iran to wipe out their nuclear facilities. And at the same time, he also is a smart man. It would take another few days for our ships to get near to where we need them to be. They are right now entering to the Mediterranean Sea. I don't think there is a rush. Iran is not going anywhere. I just hope and I pray that nothing bad will happen to Israel in the next few days until Mr. Trump makes the right decision. We just need to pray that the Lord give Trump the wisdom to do what is right, not what we want, because sometimes what we want is not actually the wise thing to do.
We have William calling next from Florence, Kentucky. William, you're on the air.
Oh, okay, Jim, hi. I was wanting to ask your guest, do Muslims believe in abortion?
Yes and no. They believe in abortion if it is less than 120 days of conception, because Muslims believe up to that date there is no spirit inside that baby. So the baby goes through stages of nutfah amshaj, which is the two fluid inside the mother womb. And then you have the stage of alqa, which is congealed blood, and that's another 40 days. And then you have the third stage, which is the madgha, which is the stage of flesh, just a piece of meat inside the mother womb. At the age of 120 days, that when the angel of the womb will go inside the womb with a piece of paper and a pen, and he will ask Allah 4 questions about the gender of the baby, and will the baby be happy or miserable? Will the baby be a believer or or disbeliever anyway, and he will write all that, which is the fate of the future of this baby, and then the angels will form that piece of flesh at the age of 120 days now,
Right.
remember, to a baby, and then the angels will put the spirit inside that baby. After 120 days, a woman cannot commit abortion, because if she did, she must be put to death. That is a punishment for killing a Muslim soul. But before 120 days, Muslims can kill their baby, and by the way, they don't pray over them, they don't wash them, they don't have a funeral service or that, they just throw them in the dirt. But after 120, if the baby for some reason die, they will do the wash and all the tradition of the burial in Islam, because that is when that thing became a human.
Wow.
Think about how much errors in such belief, according to the word of Allah in the Quran and Muslim scholars' interpretation to the Quran.
William, thank you.
Thank you very much. Bye-bye.
Bye. We have Wade calling from Lodi, Minnesota. Wade, you're on the air.
Hello, Usama. Could you explain, so the difference between a Jew and a Christian is what they do with Jesus. We worship the same God, but the difference falls with what they do. Muslims believe they are worshiping the same God as Jews and Christians. It's just a different understanding. Or, I mean, we know that they're worshiping a false God who's actually Satan, but could you explain that, please?
First of all, Christianity is not built on some Christian doctrine came up later after Christ came in the flesh, or from like the Council of Nicaea or anything like that. Christianity is a fulfillment of the hundreds of prophecies which were written in the Jewish books. We believe in the same God. Jews and Christians worship the same God, except that the Jewish people were waiting for a Messiah who would deliver them militarily. But the scripture was very clear. Jesus came to save us from our sin. And that's why the scripture said, and you shall call him Yeshua, which means Savior, and because he will save his people from their sins. And that is the difference. And I believe the day is coming. And by the way, there are plenty of Jewish people in the world today who are Christians. We're expecting to be up to 1 million worldwide are Jewish Christian. But the Muslims do not worship the God of the Bible. For Allah is the best deceiver. Allah is the one who leads people astray. Allah is the one who desires to fill hell with people. Allah is not a triune God. Allah has no son. Allah orders the Muslim believers to engage in war with the Jews and the Christians. Allah orders the Muslim to wipe out the Jews and the Christians. Allah is Satan. We have a full study. It's called Allah is Satan, Jesus God. You can find it on YouTube. Watch it. 2 hours where I go throughout the Quran verses and the teaching of Muhammad concerning who Allah is. Allah is Satan. Allah could not be God. Allah is not loving. Allah is not Father. Allah has so many names fit perfectly with the devil. Allah has so many attributes fit with the devil. Allah's action fit with the devil. Not only because the Bible said so, but even the Quran said so. So when Muslims in a way say we worship the same God, they are practicing taqiyya. Quran 3:28. They're pretending to be as good as anybody else. Let's all just hold hand and sing the Kumbaya song. When in reality, they know without any doubt that we don't worship the same God. When Muslims say we believe in Jesus, that is not the Jesus which you and I believe in. The Jesus of Islam is a Muslim Jesus who is not the Son of God. He did not die on the cross. He never rose from the dead, and he's coming back. He's alive. He's coming back to be a Muslim. Most likely, he will have 4 wives. And most likely, one of his wives will be a little child, like Muhammad, who follows the son of Muhammad. He will kill the Jews, and he will wipe out the Christian from the face of the earth. That's not our Jesus, and that's not the God we worship.
Amen. Thank you for your call here today. Friends, we have run out of time, and we just encourage you to continue to stay abreast of these issues. TheStraightWay.org is the website, TheStraightWay.org. Usama, thanks for being with us.
Amen. Thank you, Brother Jim. Good to be with you. God bless.
And friends, thanks for joining us on Crosstalk.
You've been listening to Crosstalk via satellite and the internet from VCY America. Views expressed may or may not be those of this station. For a CD of today's program, send a donation of $6 or more to VCY Tape Ministry, 3434 West Kilbourne Avenue, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 53208, or download by RSS or podcast from crosstalkamerica.com. And join us again for Crosstalk.